Why don't you give me a sign?
This is Corinna Jane.
The leaves are trailing on that shore. It's not your problem, it's mine.
With her brand new single, Give Me a Sign.
While the world still spins,
As featured on BBC Introducing.
it's just the way it's gotta be. Give me a sign about the things that we don't know. Why don't you give me a sign?
Corinna Jane, Give Me a Sign. Out now.
It's not your problem, it's mine.
Gail Vella's murder is this force's highest profile investigation.
Her life cut short, and whoever did it's got away with it.
It will be our job to detect whether police corruption has contributed to this murder remaining unsolved.
Hello, I'm Sophia Jessica, and welcome to the Fan Carpet.
So it's wonderful to speak to you, Alastair.
Pleasure.
If we go back to the beginning, was there a defining moment for you to get into the entertainment industry?
Well, my family are in the industry. My dad was a TV. Well, he started as a theatre director, and then worked his way up to being a theatre director. Started as an assistant stage manager, actually, but then worked his way up to be a director, and then he went into television, in TV, and as a producer, and then a kind of TV executive for a number of years at BBC Birmingham. So I've kind of grown up, and my mum trained as an actress as well. She never worked professionally, but she trained, and she used to do amateur dramatics. So I've kind of grown up with it as a family thing. And I actually saw, it's a bit of a cliche, but I saw a production of Les Miserables. But they brought me to London to see a production of Les Miserables when I was, I don't know, 8 or something. And from then I was pretty set that that's kind of what I wanted to do. So, and then there was a conversation with my dad around 15, where I'd kind of had vague hopes and dreams of being a professional cricketer. But that didn't work out. I wasn't good enough for that. So at about 15, I kind of really made a decision that this is really what I wanted to do. Had a conversation with my dad, and he was just very much like, you know, are you sure? It's going to be very hard, and it's very up and down, and it's blah, 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 blah. And I said, no, I'm definitely sure. And he said, well, let's go for it, and we're behind you all the way. So it's been from a very early age, really, that I've wanted to be in this industry.
Wonderful. So which character from Les Mis was it that kind of piqued your interest?
Well, because I was 8. What I really wanted to do was play Gavroche, who's the little boy who gets shot toward in the second half, which is a kind of very dramatic and very huge moment in the show. But it was really the whole spectacle of it. I mean, in those days, it's slightly changed now, but the whole spectacle of it, I don't know if you've ever seen it, but the way that the barricade, kind of all the staging, the barricade all came in, and the music's just incredible. And my parents loved the music, so the music was kind of off and on in the car. And but the kind of, I suppose, the more heroic characters, the student leader Enjolras, obviously Jean Valjean, but I'm actually these days I'm more drawn to Javert, who's the baddie policeman.
Mm-hmm.
Although he's not really, in his eyes, he's not really a baddie. In his eyes, he's doing the right thing.
Well, yeah, but that's the same with all villains. They don't think they're the villain.
Yeah, sometimes I think some of them.
Unless you've got the mustache twirling villain. But,
exactly, I think the Bond villains know that they're villains.
Oh yeah.
But again, that would be a nice ambition to head towards as well. Either Bond himself or one of the villains at some point.
I've seen the film version of Les Mis. I haven't seen the stage production.
Okay,
but I'm sure it's spectacular because
it's pretty special. And I've got one of my best mates has played the lead role recently, so I got to go and see him do that, which was which was amazing. And actually, I'm good mates with the guy that's playing Javert in the West End at the moment. So, and I saw him do that as well. So yeah, it's a brilliant show, and I've always loved it. So that was my first real memory of like seeing something that made me think that's what I want to do. Was that production at about 8 years old.
That's brilliant. Yeah, and what a show to see. It is incredible. Like I say, I've only seen the film, but when I'm able to, I will go and see the stage version because
yeah, I'd recommend it. It's great, and you know, if you like theatre, and if you like musical theatre, then it's kind of, you know, it's one of the absolute classics. So
yeah. The last thing I saw in the theatre was Wicked.
Oh, cool!
Which is a spectacular stage production. I've seen it twice.
Amazing, yeah. I've seen that a couple of times. With again, seen some friends in it, and I actually had quite a funny audition for Wicked once, where because the guy that I was auditioning for has to sing a particular, you know, has to sing in a certain range, and I had the note, I had the note on my CV on my CV it said that I could sing that note. And so the musical director went, so it says here you can sing a B flat. And I was like, oh yeah, you know, on a good day with the wind behind me. And he was like, okay, let's hear it then. And it didn't go well. It didn't go well. And funnily enough, I didn't get that job, and I've never been back to audition for it since. There we go. You can't win them all.
No, you can't. There we go. So, what was it like playing, to play Lee Banks on Line of Duty, and to be revealed as the OCG killer?
Well, you know, it was one of those special moments in my life, in my career, where it had been an ambition of mine to do the show. I'd loved the show from the start. I'm from Birmingham. The first season was all shot in Birmingham, and in fact, there's a car chase in the final episode of season 1 that goes down a road just around the corner that my cousin lives on. And you know, there's all these. So from this first season, seeing all these sites around Birmingham that I recognised, loving the show, and just getting kind of hooked in it. So I'd kind of always wanted to do the show, and with my agent, we tried to target it a little bit, and you know, sent off some emails to Jed Mercurio and etc. And got the audition. So then to get the job was just an incredible, absolutely incredible moment. And I was literally running around the room celebrating. So to just get it in the first place was great. Then the whole filming experience of season 5 with Stephen Graham and Rashenda Sandel who played Lisa McQueen, and Tommy and Greg and myself who were the gang. We had an amazing time shooting it and working on it. So yeah, it's been an incredible role. And then in that season 5, I had my prison scene after I'd been arrested. My prison scene with Hastings, with Adrian Dunbar, who plays Hastings. Then when I was reading the episode, I was a bit disappointed as an actor because what he'd said to me or what happened in that interview is never seen. And I was a bit like, oh, I would have liked to have done that scene, you know, as an actor. But then obviously Jed is a lot cleverer than I am. And by virtue of the fact that you didn't see that scene, whatever was said became much more important as the story went on. So actually, by virtue of not being in it as much as I might have wanted to be from my kind of actor's point of view, it's actually raised the kind of profile of the character in a way. And then to be asked back for this season, and again with only a couple of scenes, but quite a pivotal key within the plot, has just been incredible. It's a wonderful show to work on. It's an amazing crew and cast. Obviously met some new cast members this year. You know, reworking again with Martin Compston, who plays Steve, who's brilliant, and seeing Adrian again, etc. And obviously this time round was a little bit different because of the COVID restrictions. We couldn't have as much social interaction as we had done on the previous season. But a really good mate of mine, Nigel Boyle, who plays Buckles, was obviously in that the first scene that I do in the show. Obviously, Buckles is in the prison cell as well of this season. So it was great to have a little bit of work with Nigel as well, who's a mate of mine. So yeah, it's been a brilliant experience and an interesting one to not have, as I say, to not be in it loads. I was only in a couple of scenes, but to feel like the character, because of how much he's talked about and how key he is and what he knows and etc. Has been really great. And then yeah, getting to do that strangling scene was it was the first morning back after the lockdown after the shutdown for COVID. So it was first morning, day one, morning one, and my first day. I hadn't done anything yet, so it was my first day back, and that's what we were doing at 7 o'clock in the morning. Is strangling Patrick Belladie in a prison cell. So yeah, it's just been really really special, and I'm really feel very lucky to be part of it all.
Wonderful. Yeah, so Lee was left alive in strangling at the end. What do you think the future holds for him?
Well, who knows? I mean, obviously, it all depends on whether there's going to be another season, and we don't know that yet. Nobody knows that. Well, obviously, Jed will know whether he wants to write another season or not. But I've seen interviews with Martin saying they don't know. Like even the lead actors don't know whether there's going to be another one. And I think he's very cleverly left it in a position where it could finish where it is, or it could carry on. So I guess that I guess he'll have a break from it and do something. I know he's working on something else at the moment, or various other things. So I'm sure he'll have a bit of a break from it and then maybe decide whether he wants to pick it back up again. If he does, then yeah, Lee's still alive. And that's what Jed said to me at the end of season 5. He said, well, you're still alive in terms of whether I might have any more involvement, etc. Didn't give anything more away than that. And that remains the truth now. Whether the story would move on and whether there would be any talk about the OCG, I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. I'm as much in the dark as anybody else. But obviously, it goes without saying, it would be amazing if there were to be another season and if Lee Banks were to return again. It's quite an enjoyable experience as an actor. It's quite an enjoyable exercise as an actor to kind of go to that dark place and visit, kind of try and embody a real dark and vicious character like that. Yeah, hopefully I'll get the chance to do it again. If, he's the only surviving member of the OCG that the AC12 know about. So if there is going to be more OCG stuff, if there were to be another season, then hopefully Lee might be involved again.
Awesome. Now you mentioned the moment of you strangling, that being the first scene back. But do you have any memorable moments from set, particularly with season 6, where you had to stop early on in production?
It's what was most weird or most memorable about it, what I took away from it, because I did a couple of days filming, so that first day was very everybody was finding their feet, so because it was day one with the COVID restrictions, anytime you touched a door handle, that would then get anti-backed, in between takes or anything, and we had to keep our masks on all the way through rehearsals. It was only once we were rolling the camera that we could take our masks off. so that was all quite memorable in a way, like maybe not as memorable as, you know, for example, the previous season where we got to do, you know, raids with guns and like night shooting till 3-4 in the morning, you know, firing guns in a deserted street in Belfast, etc. But memorable for different reasons. But what was great about it was the kind of the work spirit between everybody in the community, like, you know, everybody making sure, everybody doing their bit to make sure that the production could get up and running again. And then my other scene, which was in my interview with Steve Arnott, with Martin, who plays Steve, in the prison, that was a few weeks later. So by that point, it was a little bit more. Everybody kind of felt like a little bit more that what they knew what they were doing in terms of all the COVID stuff. And filming's always a bit pressured in terms of time and trying to keep to the schedule and trying to make sure you don't you know, get behind, don't miss bits out, etc. And I think there were elements to this process that delayed things, made things slower, but there might have been elements as well that sped things up, you know, because there weren't as many little things being done, like makeup checks weren't happening, for example, as often, because they were trying to reduce the number of times that the makeup team had to come onto set, etc. So that maybe sped things up in a certain way. So yeah, it was a great experience. It was just great to be back, as I say, especially working with my mate, you know, Nigel, and getting to do a really nice scene with Martin. Those would be the and the whole kind of COVID experience of it all, I suppose, would be the memories that I take away from it.
Awesome. Now, the series has been very, very popular on the BBC, garnering accolades from the Royal Television Society, the Broadcasting Press Guild, and the Radio Times. What has that recognition meant for you?
It's just incredibly special to be involved with a show that has created such a massive reaction, and especially I think at this time, you know, the critical reaction is amazing, as of course, but to be involved with something that I think in this year, you know, created a bit of a collective experience for the country, well, not for the whole country obviously, but for 15 million or so who were watching, you know, and because it's week by week, and because, you know, you can't just binge it all, and everybody's, you know, people who are watching it live are all watching it at the same time. Mm-hmm. That, you know, and then the Twitter reaction and the podcasts and just this, as I say, this kind of quite crazy, mind-boggling, really, how the numbers in terms of viewing figures and just the general response to it means a huge amount. So yeah, to be part of that is something that I'll always be incredibly proud of within my career, because as I say, it's kind of bonkers, and yeah, the critical acclaim for it as well is something that you always want, because you want to feel like you're doing good work and that you're involved with high quality work and high quality, you know, productions and yeah, so to do that and to be in that is, as I say, very, very special.
Yeah, and to be part of the BBC family is special as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's a world. It's recognised all over the world, the BBC, in terms of the quality of the drama that it puts out and produces. You know, and I think there's lots of shows that are really, really good as well, that haven't quite had the same like blow up as Line of Duty, and who knows what that reason is, why it's quite so you know, it's struck a chord quite so dramatically with the viewing public. But yeah, to be part of that that tradition of really, really great BBC drama, yeah, is something, as I say, that I'm very proud of.
Wonderful. Yeah, and they do make some great stuff.
Absolutely. Really, yeah, brilliant.
So what's it been like working with Martin Compson and the stellar cast and Jed Mercurio? on the series?
They've been amazing. They're absolutely amazing. They're incredibly welcoming from day one. In the very first read through for season 5, Jed came up to me and said, thank you for being here, thank you for doing this, thank you for accepting the job almost. And I was like, in my head, outwardly I said, oh, of course, that, pleasure. In my head, you're thinking, are you crazy? You're thanking me. Like I'm thanking you, So yeah, they're incredibly welcoming. We had a wonderful season. The episodes that I was in season 5 were directed by John Strickland. And, that was when I was in the gang with Stephen and everybody else. And we became a very tight unit, and we had a real great laugh, and we all got on really, really well with John. We were all staying in the same hotel. We were quite often finishing work quite late at night, and having a few drinks together, and just really bonding as a group of people, as well as for off screen as well as on. And the 3 leads, Martin, Vicky, and Adrian, are again they make it a very comfortable and easy place to work. There's no egos. There's no, there's no. You're just there. You're treated as an equal. You're there to do your scenes with them, and just because they're the leads and you're a supporting character, or a much smaller role, that they're kind of you're not made to feel really any different, and that's led by them. That's led by how, as I say, incredibly welcoming and generous they all are with their work ethic, basically. So it's like, and the crew are wonderful. It's basically like a big old happy family, really. Obviously there's a couple of spats every now and then when things are getting pressured, or things are, disagreements, whatever might happen. But generally, it's just a really, really brilliant working environment to go back. And that's what I loved going back, because it was like going back to see a whole load of old friends. All the drivers, got picked up from the airport by one of the drivers. All the drivers are the same. A lot of the crew are the same. The wardrobe team are the same. Some of the makeup team are the same. So, and there's a reason why lots of people enjoy working on the show, and that's not just because of the success of the show. It's because it's just a really nice place to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And like no one buckling under the pressure of the added pressure of COVID.
No, not buckling. I mean, I think there were some very, there were consistent reminders being emailed out about the responsibility everybody had to take, and everybody had to make sure they adhered to, because there was so much at stake for them to get it made in very difficult circumstances. Mm-hmm. That obviously it was high pressure, but yeah, everybody stuck to what they needed to stick to, and fortunately got through. Well, we went back in August, and I think they wrapped in, I don't know,
November, I think.
November, yeah. So, got through August, September, October, 4 months of without one COVID outbreak. Mm-hmm. Which, in a working environment like that, where it does have to get a bit close at times, and people are mixing, to achieve that and to not have any COVID complications through 4 months of full-on filming, long days, everybody getting really tired, and immune systems probably run down a bit anyway. So to get through all of that and not have any COVID was a real testament to how much effort went into making sure that the restrictions and the regulations were all stuck to.
Yeah, because there have been cases where productions have started back up and then they've had to shut down again because there's been an outbreak. Yeah, I believe it happened with the Batman.
Yeah, I think so. I think it happened. There was a show shooting also shooting in Belfast at some point last year that it happened to as well. I can't remember which, but I think it happened on to quite a few places, you know. And I think Line of Duty it's obviously a very high profile show, and they needed to get it done, and they just couldn't take that risk. So it was strict, you know, but it needed to be, and everybody I think bought into the right spirit of it, which was to make sure they were all doing the right thing. I mean, we as cast, I think the crew as well, but we as cast were getting tested every 3 days, and we had to be in Belfast for a week before we filmed. So we were in the hotel room for a week, having had a test here at home before I left, got to Belfast, had another test a few days later, and then had a third test, I think, before I filmed. So I'd had 3 tests within the space of a week before I went onto set. And then once you're on set, it was every 3 days. And had to do that again once I'd come home and had a few weeks at home, and then went back out to film my second scene. So, you know, it was needed to be done, but they did take all the precautions that they had to. And I think because it is a high profile show and a bit of a bigger budget show, that extra expense, you know, could be factored in. Whereas I think for a lot of the smaller shows that maybe haven't quite come back properly as yet, that extra expense of people staying in hotels for longer or extra tests and all that stuff maybe wasn't as achievable in the budget. But fortunately for us, we could get it done, and we got through and got it all shot and didn't have to shut down again, because that would have been a disaster. That would have been a real disaster to have to shut it down, having started it all back up. So that was great.
Yeah, it would have been. Is that the swab up the nose? Because that can't be comfortable.
Yeah, it's back of the throat and then right at the nose. And on the one that I had done here, they sent a medical professional to the house, and that was fine. Like, it wasn't that bad. She said, "Oh, it might be quite uncomfortable," and it really wasn't. Then when I got to Ireland and had this nurse in the hotel, I had to go down to one of the conference rooms in the hotel, and she was in there doing them. And she was like, "Right, I'm going to have to put it up your nose for 10 seconds." And I was like, "Okay." But if you think about 10 seconds, it's actually quite a long time. It doesn't sound like a long time, but it actually is if you've got something shoved right up your nose. And she was really quite forceful with it. And I was just like, you know, oh God. But yeah, so they're not pleasant, but I've done loads of them now, because I did some more filming on something else in November. Had to do loads of tests for that as well. So, and then more recently, just doing lateral flow tests in terms of to try and be safe when going to visit family and all that stuff. So I'm kind of used to them now, but they're still not pleasant. They're still not pleasant.
No, not. So what is your preferred genre, and do you have any favorite films and TV?
My preferred genre of kind of film
And TV.
And TV. Well, I love dramas. I do love comedies, but I will always gravitate towards a drama. I think if I'm choosing a box set, like my girlfriend and I started Schitt's Creek, and we just kind of didn't. I mean, it's great, and I think it is great, but I think I'd always rather watch a drama than anything else, really. As I say, there are comedies that I do love, and absolutely. In fact, one of the comedies that I really love is The Office, and so therefore getting to work with Patrick Belady, who played Neil in The Office in the second series of The Office, was brilliant, because I've watched Patrick for a long time and always really loved his work. So getting to work with him on Line of Duty was great. But yeah, generally dramas my go-to. My favourite film, I think, generally comes back around to Goodfellas. Normally, it kind of switches around sometimes, but normally comes back to Goodfellas. And then TV-wise, we finished recently The Man in the High Castle, which is an Amazon Prime show, which was amazing, and Succession. I don't know if you've seen Succession on Sky Atlantic. which is just superb. Like the acting is amazing, and probably my favourite kind of ensemble acting group as a cast since Mad Men, which I watched years ago. Mad Men was amazing as well. Yeah, I'm actually drawn. I love British drama, and as we just talked about, the BBC creates a lot of amazing drama. But I do sometimes tend to find myself leaning a little bit more towards American drama. I'm currently watching The Mayor of Easttown, which has been being aired on Sky at the moment with Kate Winslet. Which is brilliant. So yeah, those are kind of my gritty dramas, or clearly quite violent stuff in terms of Goodfellas and gangster stuff, are kind of what floats my boat, which is maybe why Lee Banks is quite a good fit for me.
Yeah. So, what would be your dream role if you could choose any role out there? What would be your dream role?
Theatre-wise, I'd love to play Iago in Othello, which is, he's kind of the ultimate villain. As I say, I am quite drawn to darker characters. I find them really challenging, and I find them really exciting to get into that world. And because hopefully it's quite a long way from me as a person, that's what I find most challenging about them. So that theatre-wise, that would probably be my ultimate dream role. Screen-wise, I mean, James Bond, why not? But as I said earlier, like maybe even a Bond villain or something. But it's hard to know. It's hard to say what your dream. For me, it's hard to say what my dream role would be screen-wise, because obviously it doesn't really exist yet. But I would really love to continue to do really high quality drama, to play those characters with a slightly dark edge, or slightly troubled, but to just really continue to as I say, in the BBC dramas, the kind of Netflix dramas, the Amazon Prime dramas, those types of big scale dramas would be where I would love to head, and love to kind of continue to move towards, and ultimately one day films and whatever might come in the future.
Oh, brilliant! Who inspires you in the industry?
I'm inspired quite by a number of actors. Stephen Graham, for example, who I worked with in season 5, is a real inspiration in terms of the work that he's put in and the work that he does, the level of work that he does. James McAvoy, again, somebody who I'm inspired by their kind of brilliance, really. I look at somebody like James McAvoy and I think, he's just an incredibly special actor across all genres, and across lots of different parts. But then I'm also inspired by friends who are doing very well and who work really, really hard and put the graft in, and and have the success, because I can see it happening. Like, I'm kind of part of it because I'm talking to them all the time, or I'm, I've got a really great mate who he and I send each other our self-tapes, and we work on our self-tapes together. And I'm inspired by him and how hard he works and the success that he's having off the back of it. Another friend who writes a lot of stuff and has actually he lived out in America, did very well out in LA for a while and is back now, but he works incredibly hard on his writing and creating opportunities for himself that way. So yeah, a bit of a mix between actors who I really admire, and actors who I would kind of really love to emulate, and I'm trying to, and then mates who I admire because of I can see how hard they're working, and that inspires me to continue to work really hard as well.
That's brilliant. So with the popularity of streaming services like Disney Plus, Netflix, and obviously iPlayer, what do you think the future of cinema is?
It's a funny one that. I think the future of cinema, um, in our lifetime, I think we'll be fine. Like, once there's like a generation, if the streaming services continue to dominate, then cinema, it does have to, I think, does have to work really hard to keep up and to keep relevant and to keep, um, you know, attractive to a younger audience. But I think it will, because I think there's so many brilliant filmmakers out there, and they will make sure that they continue to find a way to create those kind of films that speak to that kind of an audience. So I do think that it's a kind of golden age of television at the moment, for sure, and the rise of the box set. If you think back to whatever it was in the late, I don't know, I can't remember when The Sopranos started, but The Sopranos was maybe like the first of the real like box set kind of generation. If you think back to there weren't that many of them like that back then, and we've gone through obviously the development of it with Breaking Bad and all these huge things that have just has meant the box set has got more and more kind of prestigious. And now the kind of actors that you see are coming to do television that probably wouldn't have done it before. For example, Kate Winslet, in doing Mayor of Easttown, like she's a film actor really, and she's now doing big telly. So there is a golden age of telly, and I think it's a great time to be an actor who wants to work in telly. But I think the future of cinema will be fine, I'm sure, because enough people, I think, will continue to make enough good films for it to continue to be an aspiration. Like, for example, for me, and I think for a lot of actors, film is still a huge, maybe even the major aspiration, to work at a really high level of filmmaking. So as much as I love television, and as much as I would, love to continue and want to continue working in television, I still, that's a real ultimate dream. And I think there's enough people that feel like that for the future of cinema to still be fine.
A lot of TV shows these days are shot as though they're like a really long film. And you get longer to spend with the character. And now, obviously, on Disney, with Disney, they're expanding their MCU on Disney Plus with the extra shows, and they've been really cool.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing that people love about box sets. I think you invest all that time, and the characters, and I think that's why writers love it as well, because they can build a character, they can develop a character through a number of different storylines across a number of different episodes or seasons. So they both have their place, and they're both brilliant in their own way. I just in terms of the film industry, in keeping relevant to a younger audience, as I say, people like you and me who've grown up with films, and younger people than us will still realize, still have grown up with films. But once we get down like a few more generations, and we start to get to generations who haven't grown up with the cinema or films being as prevalent a thing, that's where I think it will need to continue to evolve and develop to make sure it stays it still speaks to those to that generation.
Awesome. Is there anything that you're working on at the moment that you can tease?
I'm about to do some animation
Okay.
For a streaming service. I'm not allowed to say which one, but I'm about to do that, which is brilliant. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm doing that next week, actually. So which is going to be my first proper experience of it. I've done a tiny little bit doing some audio books, which is obviously not animation, but in terms of the different
voiceover.
Yeah, voiceover and voicing different characters through a book, etc. But in terms of actual out and out animation, this is my first foray into it. So I'm really looking forward to that. I've got some recording next week, and as I say, that's for one of the major streaming networks, and then just a couple of projects in the pipeline. We've got a one-man show that I'm developing, which is part of a thing that I did during lockdown, which was called Coronavirus Theatre Club, and was a monologue, basically a one-man monologue on Twitter that went out live on Twitter. And now myself and the director and writer are developing that into a one-man show, which will probably stay as a theatre thing, but we might look at turning into a film. And I'm also developing a couple of scripts of my own. I'm not very good at developing ideas, but I do have a couple of really nice ideas that I'm working on. One I think is going to be a film, and the other one I think I'm going to try and potentially pitch or figure out as a TV series. So yeah, keeping busy. And then in terms of other acting work that will come in for other bits, telly and theatre, auditions are starting to pick up, and hopefully something cool will come along soon.
Yeah, and hopefully season 7 of Line of Duty. Cool. So where can we keep up with you online?
So it's just at Alastair Natkiel on both Twitter and Instagram. Twitter is a capital A and a capital N, and Instagram is all lowercase. I'm not on TikTok, which I probably should be, but feel like I'm a bit too old for TikTok. But I maybe should start creating some content and getting some bits out on TikTok. But yeah, for the moment, just Twitter and Instagram at Alastair Natkiel.
All right, brilliant. All right, well, it's been wonderful to speak to you. Congratulations with everything. I look forward to whatever you do next.
Brilliant. Thanks, Mark.
Thanks very much. Take care, mate. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. Please follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram for more content next time.
I'm being framed. No!
When did we stop caring about honesty and integrity?
Do you still believe there's a fourth man out there?
Man or woman?
I'm here on the largest of the Balearic Islands, Mallorca. With the turquoise waters of the Mediterranean Sea, beautiful mountainous landscape, the thriving city of Palma, quaint little market towns, a growing number of luxury hotels. It's no surprise that the likes of Audrey Hepburn and Elizabeth Taylor like to holiday here. So come and join me as I take you round Mallorca.
Thank you for watching The Fan Carpet. If you like this video, be sure to click that thumbs up button at the bottom of your screen. And also be sure to subscribe to the Fan Carpet YouTube channels. They're absolutely free and so much fun too. Be sure to check out the official website, thefancarpet.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram to stay up to date with reviews, competitions, the latest news, and so much more.